Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jai Radha
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari. Yashodanandana Vrajanarandana. Yashodanandana Vrajanarandana. Yamuna Tira Ramachari. Yamuna Tira Ramachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Om. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayat Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Yeah, so welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are reading from Canto 8, Chapter 4. Gajendra returns to the spiritual world. Woohoo! He's been through quite an ordeal finally. Back home, back to Godhead. So we have something to look forward to through our ordeals here in this world. So we're starting from text 14, and we'll go till the end of the chapter, text 26. And just start with the translations. Do you have the mic already?
Yes.
Okay. Jaishnav, looks like it's with you. Text 14, please. Hold it for like 3 seconds, I think.
My dear King Parikshit, I have now described the wonderful power of Krishna rescued when the Lord delivered the king of the elephants. O best of the Kuru dynasty, those who hear this narration become fit to be promoted to the higher planetary system. Simply because of hearing this narration, they gain a reputation as devotees. They are unaffected by the contamination of Kali Yuga and they never see bad dreams.
Therefore, after getting up from bed in the morning, those who desire their own welfare, especially the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and in particular the Brahmana Vaishnavas, should chant this narration as it is, without deviation, to counteract the troubles of bad dreams.
O best of Kuru dynasty, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul of everyone, being thus pleased and blessed Gajendra in the presence of everyone there, he spoke the following blessings.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, freed from all sinful reactions are those who rise from bed at the end of the night, early in the morning, and fully concentrate their minds with great attention upon my form, your form, this lake, this mountain, the caves, the gardens, the cave plant, the bamboo plant, the celestial trees, the residential quarters of me, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, the three peaks of Triputa mountain made of gold, silver and iron, my very pleasing abode, the ocean of milk, the white island Shvetadipa, which is always brilliant with spiritual rays, my marks of Srivatsa, the Kaustubha gem, my Vajayanti garland, my club Komodaki, my Sudarshana disc and Panchajanya conch shell, my bearer Garuda, the king of the birds, my bed Sheshananda, my expansion of energy, the goddess of fortune, Lord Brahma, Narada Muni, Lord Shiva, Prahlad, my incarnations like Matsya, Kurma and Varaha, my unlimited all auspicious activities which yield to piety to he who hears them, the sun, the moon, fire, the mantra Omkara, the absolute truth, the total material energy, the cows and brahmanas, devotional service, the wives of Soma and Kashyapa who are all daughters of King Daksha, the river Ganges, Saraswati, Nanda and Yamuna, Kalindi, the elephant Airavata, Dhruv Maharaj, the seven rishis and the pious human beings.
My dear devotee, unto those who rise from bed at the end of night and offer me the prayers offered by you, I give an eternal residence in the spiritual world at the end of their lives.
Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, after giving these instructions, the Lord, who is known as Rishikesha, buckled with his Panchajanya conscience in this way, pleasing all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma. Then he mounted the back of his carrier Garuda.
Jai. Thank you. So now let's go back to text 15. And I'll say the Sanskrit for this. Yatanu kirtayantyetach Shreyas kama dvijatayaha Shuchaya prata uttaya Duswapnadyupashantaye Yatanu kirtayantyetach Shreyas kama dvijatayaha Shuchaya prata uttaya Duswapnadyupashantaye. Please chant.
Yatanu
Yatanu kirtayanti tach. Shreyas kama dvijatayaha. Shuchaya prata uttaya. Duswapna dupashantaye. Yatanu kirtayanti tach. Shreyas kama dvijatayaha. Shuchaya prata uttaya. Duswapna dupashantaye. Yatanu kirtayanti tach. Shreyas kama dvijatayaha. Shuchaya prata uttaya. Duswapna dupashantaye. Yatanu kirtayanti tach. Shreyas kama dvijatayaha. Shuchaya prata uttaya. Duswapna dupashantaye. All right, let's do the word for word all together. Yata, without deviation. Anukirtayanti, they chant. Etat, this narration of the deliverance of Gajendra. Shreya kama, persons who desire their own auspiciousness. Dvijataya, the twice-born, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. Shuchayaha, especially the Brahmins who are always clean. Prataha, in the morning. Uttaya, after getting up from sleep. Duswapna adi, beginning with sleeping badly at night. Upashantaye, to counteract all troublesome positions. Anybody sometimes sleep badly at night? This is the solution here. This is the remedy. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Therefore, after getting up from bed in the morning, those who desire their own welfare, especially the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and in particular the Brahman Vaishnavas, should chant this narration as it is without deviation to counteract the troubles of bad dreams. So, yeah, Prabhupada translates it bad dreams. Duswapna, it just means bad sleep. So it could be bad dreams during sleep, or just having a restless night, not being able to sleep, disturbed sleep. And then it's duswapna adi, so beginning with sleeping badly. So that's just like the beginning of the problems it can solve, but it can solve many problems, beginning with that one. Okay, purport. Every verse in the Vedic literature, especially in the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, is a Vedic mantra. Here, the words yatanu kirtayanti are used to recommend that this literature be presented as it is. Unscrupulous persons, however, deviate from the actual narration and interpret the text in their own way with grammatical jugglery. Such deviations are to be avoided. This is a Vedic injunction supported by Shukadeva Goswami, one of the Mahajanas, or authorities. He says, yatanu kirtayanti. One should recite the mantra as it is, without deviation, for then one will be eligible to rise to the platform of all good fortune. Shukadeva Goswami especially recommends that those who are brahmanas, shuchayaha, recite all these mantras after rising from bed in the morning. Because of sinful activities, at night we have bad dreams, which are very troublesome. Indeed, Maharaj Yudhisthira was obliged to see hell because of a slight deviation from devotional service to the Lord. Therefore, duswapna, bad dreams, occur because of sinful activities. A devotee sometimes accepts a sinful person as his disciple, and to counteract the sinful reactions he accepts from the disciple, he has to see a bad dream. Nonetheless, the spiritual master is so kind that in spite of having bad dreams due to the sinful disciple, He accepts his troublesome business for the deliverance of the victims of Kali Yuga. After initiation, therefore, a disciple should be extremely careful not to commit again any sinful act that might cause difficulties for himself and the spiritual master. Before the deity, before the fire, before the spiritual master, and before the Vaishnavas, the honest disciple promises to refrain from all sinful activity. Therefore, he must not again commit sinful acts and thus create a troublesome situation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So before we get into the substance of this verse and today's section, I'd like to just give a little bit of context, because we started the chapter yesterday, and the previous chapter ended with the killing of the killing of the crocodile, the deliverance of Gajendra. But in fact, they were both delivered, right? Because anyone who is killed by the Lord also gets delivered. So the demigods all came with Lord Vishnu, excuse me, to save Gajendra. And so they're all there. There are also some demigods still in the heavenly planets. And they're all looking on. And they were celebrating this great triumph of the Lord and the salvation of the devotee. And they were showering flowers and beating kettle drums and singing and dancing up there in the clouds and down on the earth, those that were there. So there was a big celebration for Gajendra. And so in yesterday's section, Shukadeva Goswami was describing the backstory of the crocodile. So this crocodile, it looks like he's just a ignorant crocodile who is hungry and sees a big meal there in the form of an elephant and chomps down on his leg. But actually there's a whole story that this crocodile was a Gandharva in Gandharva Loka, in the higher planets. And he was one day playing in the water. So the residents of the heavenly planets, sometimes they become intoxicated by their material good fortune, and they forget about Krishna, and they just become a little whimsical. So this Gandharva, Hoo-Hoo, his name was Hoo-Hoo, because he was always laughing, like hoo-hoo, ha-ha, hee-hee. So his name was Hoo-Hoo. Maybe it was a nickname, but anyways, that's the name he got in Srimad Bhagavatam. He was known as Hoo-Hoo. So he was in the water. He was in this lake, and he was splashing and playing, and there were beautiful women there, so he was having a good time, and hoo-hoo, ha-ha, hee-hee in the water. And then he thought that he would do something very fun, which was, so there was a rishi, Devala Rishi, who was taking his sacred midday snan there in the lake, taking his midday bath before performing his brahminical rituals and things at midday. And this Gandharva Hoo-Hoo, he thought, oh, let me just amuse the girls here in the water by doing some fun trick on this rishi. And so he dives underwater and he swims over there and he grabs hold of Devala Rishi's foot and he pulls him. And then Devala Rishi, he's like that in the water. So Hoo-Hoo thought it was really funny, but Devala Rishi didn't think it was very funny at all. And so he turned around and he cursed him. He said, "You rascal Hoo-Hoo, you've acted just like a crocodile that sneaks up from behind and bites somebody's leg. Therefore, I curse you to become a crocodile." So that's how he became a crocodile. And then, of course, Hoo-Hoo was like, "Oh no, this is terrible. Please forgive me. Sorry, I was just kidding. It was just a joke. Nothing personal. Please don't take it personally." So he was taking a humble position and begging forgiveness. So then Devala Rishi, being, a saintly Brahmin, he had compassion on Hoo-Hoo, but he couldn't revoke the curse, but he said, "Okay, you're going to have to become a crocodile, but you will be delivered when the Lord will free you from this curse when you attack Gajendra." So in Gajendra literally means the king of the Gajas, of the elephants. So his whole life, this crocodile, Hoo-Hoo, in the form of a crocodile, was just looking out for some elephant that he could bite so that he could get free from the curse. So then when Gajendra entered the water, he was like, "This is it. This is my chance to get out of this horrific body and go back to Gandharva Loka and, be myself again." So then he just chomped onto Gajendra's leg, and that's why he was holding on. That's why he didn't let go for 1,000 years, because he was like, "This is my only chance to get back to Gandharva Loka." So now finally when the Lord threw his Sudarshan chakra and chopped off the head of the crocodile, then from that dead crocodile body emerged this beautiful form of Gandharva. And so the demigods were all singing to celebrate this great act of the Lord, and Hu started also singing. So he was also singing prayers, and of course because he's not just a Gandharva, but he's called Gandharva Sattama, which means the best of the Gandharvas, like the chief of the Gandharvas. And the Gandharvas are known for their good voices, right? They're the famous singers amongst all the heavenly denizens. They're the singers. And so he's the best of the Gandharvas, so you can imagine he must have a very beautiful voice. If he was still here, we could invite him to Kirtan 50. He'd be a famous Kirtaniya in ISKCON if he was, or maybe he is, who knows. But anyways, so he was singing the glories of the Lord, and then after that he just departed. He expressed his gratitude to the Lord, and then he left to live out the rest of his life in Gandharva Loka. But then because he was killed by the Lord, he also had the eligibility to go to the spiritual world, to get liberation. So when he finished his lifetime as a Gandharva, then he went to Vaikuntha. So, does anyone know what his qualification was for going to Vaikuntha? Because usually, people who are bothering devotees and get killed by the Lord, they don't go to Vaikuntha, they go to the Brahmajyoti. So what was it that made this Hu eligible to actually go back to the spiritual world and be the eternal servant of Lord Vishnu? He was blessed by a pure devotee. Which pure devotee? Devada Rishi. Okay, so he had the blessing, like the mixed curse and blessing of Devada Rishi. Okay, I'm sure that definitely worked in his favor. Yes, thank you. Anything else?
He sang the prayers.
He sang the prayers. Okay, so he got the personal darshan of the Lord, and he glorified him. He was doing kirtan, right, singing the glories of the Lord.
Also, he got the dust of lotus feet of the head.
He got the dust of the lotus feet of the Vaishnava. Yeah, he took shelter of the lotus foot of Gajendra. So Gajendra was a pure devotee, right? And we're also hearing the backstory here of Gajendra. So Gajendra, we heard yesterday, was King Indradumna in his past lifetime. And this was yesterday's verse, that Indradumna, he actually renounced the kingdom. He went to the Malaya hills. He was living there in the forest, and he was living very simply and completely engaging himself in prayers and meditation on the Lord. And so it said that one day he was totally wrapped in his meditation. He was like in an ecstatic trance, just remembering the Lord. And so he was oblivious to the external world. He was just completely like in samadhi. And then this, who came, Agastya Muni, another famous rishi, he came along and to the hermitage of Indradumna, and he was expecting some kind of reception. He was expecting a greeting and maybe a sitting place and a glass of water or something like that. But because Indradumna was totally absorbed in trance, he didn't even know that Agastya Muni had arrived. So then he didn't do anything, he just sat there as if he was just dull. So then Agastya Muni, he was feeling terribly neglected and offended, and so he cursed him. He said, Indradumna, you're supposed to be a king, you're pretending to be a great, advanced personality here, but you're just acting just like a dull elephant that just sits there and doesn't even do anything. And so I cursed you to become an elephant. And so that's how he got cursed, to become an elephant. So now, but Gajendra, because he was actually a devotee in this past life, then when he got saved, when he got pulled out of the water by the Lord, then he not only got liberated, but he directly got a spiritual body. So his elephant body transformed into a four-armed form, like the residents of Vaikuntha. And then, amazingly, just imagine this, because Lord Vishnu had come down on the back of Garuda, so he parked Garuda there, and then he went and saved Gajendra. Gajendra transforms into this four-armed, beautiful Vaikuntha-vasi, and then Lord Vishnu invites him to just sit down on Garuda. And then, so the Lord is so pleased by this whole thing that he's also inspired. And then he starts speaking these verses, right? This long series of verses where he says that freed from all sinful reactions are those who get up early in the morning, concentrate their minds on my form, your form. So he's talking to Gajendra. My form, your form, this lake, this mountain, the gardens, the cane plants, the bamboo plants, the Trikuta. So he's basically, the Lord is kind of like ecstatic, you know? He's feeling very happy and in the mood of giving blessings and giving them very easily. Like anybody who just remembers a bamboo plant on Trikuta mountain gets free from sinful reactions. So that's what happens, you know, when someone's very pleased with a series of events, that the outcome comes out glorious and wonderful, and you're feeling like, wow, that was just fantastic. Everything just came together so beautifully. This is wonderful. And then you become very, what's the word? Magnanimous. You just want to give blessings. So the Lord is being very generous in his giving of blessings. And it also shows that anything that's connected to the Lord and his pastimes, it becomes spiritual and transcendental and purifying. So just the environment in which it happens. So these are just bamboo plants, you know, in a nice place in the material world. But now just because they happen to be growing there where the Lord had this beautiful pastime with his devotee Gajendra, now all of a sudden if you just think of these bamboo plants, then you become free from sinful reactions. So it just goes to show the power of the Lord's pastimes to purify the place, the people there, everything. So we can think of that too, like here we live at Radhikala Chandji Dham, and so many pastimes of the Lord are happening here. Right? We have Swing Festival, we have the Boat Festival, we have the flower, huge Pushpanjali twice a year. We have devotees doing so much kirtan and katha and preaching and prasadam distribution and so many services every day. So we're living here in a holy place, and everything here, the deities, of course, all their paraphernalia, the pujaris, the kirtan leaders, the devotees who are making garlands, the devotees who are, you know, studying Srila Prabhupada's books together, and then the trees on the side of the road, and the flowers growing in the garden. All these things are actually purifying, and just by remembering them, we can get free from sinful reactions, because this is a pastime place of the Lord. So this is something to remember, is the sanctity of the holy place, and how it's actually non-different. All these things are non-different from Lord Nityananda, because Lord Balaram expands to be all the paraphernalia of the Lord. Even the pots in the kitchen and everything are expansions of Lord Balaram, who is not different from Lord Nityananda. And Lord Nityananda is so merciful. So we can see how the Lord's mercy is very easily accessible in holy places where pastimes of the Lord and his devotees take place. And we can be blessed just by touching anything in this holy dham. So we're very fortunate to live here, to live in this beautiful devotee community. And in so many ways, this pastime is helping us. So getting back to today's verse, it's talking about how, let's see. So first of all, 14, it says, those who hear this narration become fit to be promoted to the higher planetary systems. They gain a reputation as devotees, and they are unaffected by the contamination of Kali Yuga, and they never see bad dreams. So those are some nice benedictions. You can go to higher planets. Not that most devotees don't usually want to go there, but you can if you want, now that you're at this pastime. That's an option. You gain a reputation as a devotee. So that's nice. You'll be known as a devotee. People will see you and be like, oh, Hare Krishna, nice to see a devotee here. And then you have some opportunity to share Krishna consciousness, because people will see you and respect you as a devotee. And Ramananda Rai says to Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Charitamrita, that the most, Lord Chaitanya asked him, who is the most famous person? And Ramananda Rai replies that person who is known to be a devotee is the most famous in all the three worlds. So sometimes, we sing in the morning that the Eve Yash Gusu Tribhuvana, that Srila Prabhupada, your fame is spread all over the three worlds. And I remember when I came to Krishna consciousness and I learned the translation of that song, I was like, how is that even true? So many people in this world don't know about Srila Prabhupada, right? Devotees know, and maybe a few people got Prabhupada's books. But if you think about the percentage of the population, not that many people are familiar with Srila Prabhupada. But that's only in this world. But on the higher planets, people know about Srila Prabhupada because, what he did was just astonishing to, those who appreciate who actually have the intelligence to appreciate what he did. Down here, most people don't have the intelligence to appreciate the value of what he did. But, that's why it's Tribhuvana. So maybe he's not so famous on this Bhuvana, but this is just one out of the three. And so in the higher planets, in Swargaloka, and Mahaloka, and Janaloka, and Tapaloka, and Brahmaloka, you can be sure that they're just looking down here in this world and thinking, wow, that's incredible what Srila Prabhupada did. Giving this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam to these people who are just so unqualified, and how he made them qualified, and how he's taking them back home to Godhead. It's a goal which even we can't attain. Just incredible. And that's why they're all lining up to take birth on this planet and in this movement, so that they too can quickly go back to Godhead. So what's happening here is that these two personalities were both cursed, and the reason that they were cursed is because the Lord wanted them to quickly go back to Godhead. And so the Lord is so kind, and Srila Prabhupada says that he wants us to go back to Godhead more than we can imagine, more than we even desire ourselves. And so he's thinking of all different ways. How can I get my devotee back to Godhead quickly, right? So in Dudumna, we see he was a great devotee. He left his kingdom, he left his family, left everything, and he went to the forest just to absorb himself in the pastimes, name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. And he was doing that. He was absorbed in this ecstatic trance of meditation. And then Krishna was like, you know what? I want to bring him back. This devotee is very dear to me. He's so absorbed. He just needs to be here with me in the spiritual world. And so he arranges this whole thing. He's the Paramatma in the heart of everyone, including Agastya Muni. And so he sends Agastya Muni there to curse him, to become an elephant, so that, after a short time, Lord can come and personally bring him back to Vaikuntha, back to the eternal abode. So, and Hu also, he could have been, God knows how many lifetimes he would have stayed in this material world, but he also got a great benediction, and just at the end of one life, he also went to Vaikuntha. So, and this is, so unaffected by the contamination of Kali Yuga. That's also a great benediction, because trying to be devotees in Kali Yuga is not easy. Right? There's so much contamination. Every time you pick up your phone or turn on your computer or drive to the city or, basically talk to anyone, it's like there's so much contamination of Kali Yuga, and within our own hearts, because, we've taken birth in this Kali Yuga quite a few times already before the present birth, and so we've got conditioned by Kali Yuga. But just by hearing these prayers that are offered by Gajendra, we can get free from all these contaminations. And this is the power of hearing the Lord's pastime, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. If we're Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, we should hear every day all of these things. And then not seeing bad dreams. We can sleep very peacefully at night and not be bothered by bad dreams. So what Srila Prabhupada is elaborating here on the purport is that we have bad dreams because of sinful activities. So when we do some sinful activity, then we have to suffer, we get bad karma, right? Bad activities bring bad karma, and bad karma brings suffering. So somehow or other we need to suffer. And that can either happen, in our waking state, when we, stub our toe, or somebody insults us, or, something terrible happens, we get sick, or we get some, legal case against us. Somebody sues us for some reason, or something like that, or we just, there's different form. All the different forms of suffering are all sinful reactions. And then another way that we can suffer is when we sleep and have a bad dream. So that's actually a better way to suffer because we don't have to actually experience, in one sense, we experience it, but when we wake up, it's all over. So that's sometimes, especially for devotees, and Prabhupada says, especially the spiritual master, Krishna doesn't really want great devotees to suffer. Like anyone who takes a position as being a Diksha Guru in ISKCON is a very great personality and very dear to Krishna, and Krishna doesn't want that person to suffer. But sometimes because of getting into a contract with the disciple in which they agree to accept their sinful reactions, then the spiritual master has to suffer due to the past sins of the disciple. So I know that, at the time of when a guru does an initiation, usually the next day they're not feeling very well. I remember somebody saying that, for example, Radhanath Swami always has a lot of devotees that want to take initiation from him, but one of his disciples who helps to manage the initiation, she said that he'll only take like 30 at a time, because otherwise the next day he's really down for the count. It's like too much weight of sinful reactions from those disciples. So he doesn't do big initiations. He takes the sinful reactions a little at a time. And then, so what happens is that, because also, a devotee who's surrendered, and this is why the Diksha Guru has to be like very, very surrendered, is because it is that Krishna says, Sarvadharma Pratyaja Mamikam Sharanam Braja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Yishyami Mashuchaha. He says that abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender unto me, and I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So what happens when a guru gives initiation is it's not that he stays with those sinful reactions, otherwise, it would be impossible. But they just kind of pass through him, and then immediately, because he's a surrendered soul, Krishna very quickly frees him from all the sinful reactions. So it's not that the guru has to suffer for long, otherwise no one's going to do that service, right? Too difficult. Prabhupada says that, after initiation, he says that the guru, despite having to have bad dreams or something else, he accepts the troublesome business. So this is the mercy. Spiritual masters are very merciful, very compassionate, very tolerant, and they're actually willing to take on the suffering of others to help the disciples. So it's kind of like in Christianity, that's a big thing that they emphasize a lot, is how Jesus Christ took on himself the sins of the world, of anyone who accepts him as their personal savior, takes shelter of him, that he suffered for the sake of others. He suffered their sins and freed them from the sins. So there's the same thing that's happening when devotees surrender to Krishna and take shelter of a guru. Then they get freed from the sins. The guru, takes the weight, takes on the burden of those sinful activities, and they may experience something, but then Krishna relieves them of that karmic burden. And I actually saw this with my own eyes, that my first spiritual master, when he initiated a disciple, she had this young girl in Scotland, and she had a really bad skin. She had eczema, but it was very severe. She had like itchy sores like all over her body, and it troubled her a lot. And so she got initiated, and then the next day, our spiritual master said, how's your eczema? And then she said, miraculously, it's so much better. It's not itching, it's not bothering me at all. And then he said, come here and have a look. And then he had a long sleeve kurta on, so he pulls up his kurta, and it was full of like sores, like eczema, looking like eczema sores. And she was just like, oh my God. But then within a couple days it was gone. So like that. So it actually is a thing, but it's not, but it goes away. And that's why it's important for the spiritual masters to be very, very surrendered, very pure-hearted, to not have any material motivations, right? If a guru is taking disciples for the sake of, self-aggrandizement or just increasing the number of followers, Lord Chaitanya said, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, that I have no desire to accumulate wealth or beautiful women or followers or anything. I just want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. So that has to be the mood, that has to be the attitude of the guru, that I don't want followers, I don't want wealth, I don't need to be served. I don't need any of this. I'm just accepting these devotees, my Lord, on your behalf as your servant, and I'm going to try to serve them to the best of my ability to help them in their spiritual lives so that they can come back to you. And that way the Guru can always stay safe. So, yeah. So these are some of the ways, many ways. And then it also says, even further than this, is that anyone who, where is it? Anyone who hears this pastime actually receives, the Lord is saying here now, my dear devotee, those who rise from bed and offer me the prayers offered by you. So if we wake up early in the morning and recite the prayers of Gajendra, then what happens? He says, I give an eternal residence in the spiritual world at the end of their lives. So just like he gave to who at the end of his Gandharva life, he was able to go back home, back to Godhead. So this is a nice thing we can do, is get up a little extra early in the morning and set aside 10 minutes and go back to the previous chapter, chapter 3, Gajendra's prayers of surrender, and just read those prayers. And the Lord says that anyone who does that, you go back home, back to Godhead. He says, Dadami vipulam gatim, that I give them. Dadami means I give. I give them what? Vipulam gatim, the eternal, unlimited goal. Gati means the ultimate goal, or the spiritual world. So much benefit in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, meditating on Srimad Bhagavatam, absorbing ourselves in the Lord's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. And we just need to keep doing it, right? Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So all of you who are sitting here in this room or who are listening out there online, you really understood the purpose of the human form of life, is to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, hear the pastimes of the Lord. That when Maharaj Parikshit was cursed to die, then he asked Shukadeva Goswami, what is the duty of a human being? What is it? And especially those about to die. He said, what should we hear about and remember and like that? And so Shukadeva Goswami answers that the duty of a person about to die is to always hear, chant, and remember the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. And then he speaks Srimad Bhagavatam for that purpose, so that Maharaj Parikshit can fulfill the duty of his human life and end his sojourn in this material world by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is it. This book is our duty. It's our duty as human beings. This is the prime duty of the human being, is to hear, chant, and remember the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord, which are specifically recorded in the Srimad Bhagavatam for this purpose, so that we can fulfill the purpose of the human life. And so we need to make time for this and read and listen and explain and like that. Immerse ourselves in Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai. So stop there and open it up for any questions or comments. Yes, Tulsasaki.
Hare Krishna, thank you for a very nice class. So, as you were going over the pastime, I was just thinking, normally we're always asking for blessings. And in this example, it seems like, and I'm assuming Devala Rishi and Agastya Rishi must be very exalted that that Krishna used their curses to be actually blessings for these devotees. So it's like, the way it played out, it was like actually a curse that they did. And so is it that they also knew that Krishna is using them to curse?
Not necessarily, but he's just inspiring them from within the heart, right? So sometimes, it's like that. If any way that a great devotee treats you is a benediction, right? And sometimes, when a senior devotee gets angry and chastises you, or as they used to say, you get the sauce. It's actually the mercy of the devotee, because if somebody gets angry with you, it's out of love. Especially when a devotee gets angry with you, it's out of love. It means that they care, right? Because if they don't care about you, they're not going to bother getting angry. They're not going to get emotional about what you do, right? The fact that they're getting angry means that you care. Like when a small child runs out into the street or something, right? And the mother starts yelling at him, "What are you doing?" You know, it's like yelling and screaming and getting really angry, and then she gets the kid by the arm and yanks him out of the street and gives him a slap or something. "Don't you ever do that again!" You know, it's like, why is she doing that? Because she loves the child, right? So sometimes that's not condoning, you know, slapping your kids, but sometimes some, you know, strong action needs to be taken to protect children because they don't know any better. So so even anger from a devotee, a senior devotee, is love. It's expression of their love, their care, their mercy. It's a blessing because it's helping us.
And then just one last clarification. So who went back to Gandharva Loka and then back to the spiritual world?
Who?
Yeah,
The crocodile.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he got delivered first, he went back to Gandharva Loka and then to the spiritual world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah, Prabhupada explains it in the purport to text 1 and purport to text 4. He says both things. So then we can understand that. It's kind of like that. Like sometimes the Lord will bless a devotee or some person to go back to the spiritual world, but it's not immediate. Like with Muchukunda, you got that blessing that you'll be, you know, my eternal devotee in the spiritual world. But then he said, but you know, after a little while, you need to finish your lifetime first. Or Dhruva Maharaj, yeah, he gets the benediction to go back to the spiritual world, but he has to be the king. You know, he still has to rule over the planet. So sometimes it happens like that. For the Lord has his reasons. Yeah. So I mean, there are so many. Like when you read the Falashruti, the fruits of hearing some pastimes from Bhagavatam, so many times it says you become eligible to go back to Godhead. Right? We hear that. So we've heard these pastimes so many times. We feel like so many times I've gotten this Falashruti of being able to go back to Godhead. Why am I still here? Right? So we're like, yeah, you need to finish your life. You still need to do a few things here in this material world. So, yeah. Lalita Sindri?
Thank you for this class. It's always inspiring. Maybe a naive question just to register in my mind so that I can hear again. I'm asking you. So when you mentioned somebody who's going to die, the duty is to hear Bhagavatam and then go back to God. So just hearing Bhagavatam, just the Shravana, does that take you back to Godhead, or through that Shravana we are going to get detachment and then get attached to Krishna? Is that process which takes you back to Godhead, or just hearing everything?
An interesting question. Because from hearing, we know that all these things happen, right? You get freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and you get situated in goodness, and then evam prasanna manaso, and then you get detached and attached to the Lord, and all these things happen. So, it's not that just hearing. Of course, if you're just hearing, but you're not, if you're just sitting in a room, then you're going to be hearing, because the ears don't close, unless you have some headphones in or something, you're actually not hearing. But just hearing, you're going to get some benefit. But of course, the more we're hearing attentively, right, there has to be some quality to the hearing too. He says, whoever attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, then the Supreme Lord is at once established within the heart of the hearer. So the Bhagavatam starts out in the first canto, in the very first verses, talking about the qualification of the hearer and the qualification of the speaker. So we have to be qualified hearers. Okay, so there's different qualities of hearing. Somebody might be not really listening at all, just being totally distracted. And then they're not going to get that much benefit. Like when Narada Muni was speaking Bhagavatam to Prahlad in the womb of his mother Kayadu, Prahlad got the benefit, but Kayadu didn't, because she was distracted. She was just worrying about her husband. Oh my God, my husband is off in the forest. God knows where he is, when he's coming back. I'm going to give birth soon. I'm basically like homeless. I'm here in this with the sage, I don't know, the child's going to be born, what's going to happen to the baby, what's going to happen to me. So she was like in anxiety, and she was so distracted by her own thoughts and her own worries that she was not able to listen. So Prahlad became a Mahabhagavat, but she just remained herself. She didn't have that transformation of heart. So, yeah. So there has to be quality to the hearing, and then by hearing, all of these results come. But just the fact that we're lending an ear to the Srimad Bhagavatam invokes so much mercy of the Lord. Yeah. But of course, the more quality we do it with, then the quicker the benefit's going to be. Is that okay? Yes. Mishra Bhagavan.
It's described in the summary that after this incident, King Yudhishthira went back to God, or he became an associate of the Lord. And in the 6th canto, when Vritrasura was killed, he was King Shritaketu, and then he took birth as a monster and had a spite with Lord Indra.
Yeah.
And after he was killed, then he went back to the spiritual world. So, what exactly, how do we know, where did they go in the spiritual world? Did they become like a blade of grass in Vrindavan? Did they have a cow? Did they have 5 relationships with Krishna? Did they become a cowboy boy? Did their parents Gopi?
Yeah.
And the Vaikuntha planets? Did they go to Gaura-lila? Where, how do we, spiritual world's a big place, there's a lot going on, where do they, what position did they get?
Yeah, we don't have that information. Here with Gajendra, it's described that he got Sarupya Mukti, so he got a 4-armed form, and it's specifically said that he went to Vaikuntha. So we can imagine that he's, in Vaikuntha, everyone kind of looks like Vishnu, except without the Kaustubha gem and without the Srivatsa. So, yeah, we can, and they worship Lord Vishnu with awe and reverence. They do different services. We don't get the specifics, though. And as far as that information is just not given. Sometimes when Prabhupada was asked questions like that, he would say, "You'll find out when you get there." So when we get back, we'll be like, "Oh, you were Vritrasura Chittaketu, you were Gajendra," right? If we want to know, we'll be able to have that knowledge of who's who from personalities from the Bhagavatam and where they ended up in the spiritual world. It'd be kind of nice, to meet all those heroes from the Bhagavatam. Oh, Prahlad and Dhruva, wow, I can't believe you guys are all here. Let's go play, right? So, yeah. Another thing that struck me about this pastime is that you see that Gajendra and the crocodile, their relationship was not very palatable, right? They did not have a congenial relationship. They spent 1,000 years just fighting. But at the end of it, they both ultimately went back to Godhead. So, and they basically enabled each other to go back to Godhead. So I was thinking that sometimes we have relationships in this world that are not very congenial, right? You may feel like, what am I doing in this relationship? But at the same time, those relationships are very purifying, and they force us to take shelter of Krishna. And they really, sometimes in retrospect, we can be most grateful to the people that give us the most trouble. Because those are the people that really forced us to, pray and cry out to Krishna and get absorbed in our services, chant attentively, take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, try to really understand our position here in this material world, and that help us to go back to Godhead. If everybody treats us nicely, everything's good, everything's comfortable, then we're going to end up like Hoo-Hoo on Gandharva Loka, just playing and swimming and goofing around and being whimsical, right? But as soon as the going gets tough, it's like, Krishna, oh my God, I need to chant really good rounds. I need to understand what's going on here, open up the Bhagavatam and get some perspective on my problem, on my life, right? So, yeah, we see that although their relationship, materially speaking, was horrific, but spiritually it was very favorable. And so it can help us to maybe have a perspective on those relationships in our lives that we view as bad relationships. Can try to see maybe how is this helping me spiritually, at least. And that can encourage us to keep going. Yes, Baladev?
Thank you. Yesterday in Maharaj's class, anyone asked a question. He was, first answer was, it's very complicated. Means he can answer it because it's complicated. So every individual is different. Like Narada Muni case, he listened to the Bhakti Vedantas for attentively, so sincerely, everything.
Mm-hmm.
But in case also all purification process he has to go through. After then he saw the Lord Vishnu in her, but after then he said we have to purify ourselves more.
Mm.
So I did all purification. So the process is not sometimes we think, okay, it's like Karmakanda section, okay, you did the result, you did it, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Lord will pick you up. It's not like that. That's Shastra we get. But another verse nice on that case, I remember that. Iha Jasya Haridasya Parmana Manusha Gira Nikhileshishu Avasteshu Muktashu. The devotee who is the rendered devotional service to mind, heart, with everything, doesn't matter what situation he is, he's always divided in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
So that was a giving. So this,
Thank you. Yeah, very good point. So, yeah, Baladev was saying how the Narada Muni in his previous life, he actually saw the Lord, but then the Lord disappeared, and he said, and so little Narada Muni was previously a small boy, and he was like trying to get back into meditation and make the form of the Lord appear again, and then he heard a voice that said, I'm sorry, but you won't see me again in this life. But keep going, keep doing what you're doing, basically. But then Rupa Goswami says that one who is always engaging one's mind, activities, and words in the service of the Lord, that person is Jivan Mukta, is liberated even in this life. So, we're doing all these things, and in response to what I said, like we're wondering, why am I still in the material world? Why didn't I go back to Godhead yet? So in a sense, we already did. We're already living in the spiritual world because Jivan Mukta. We're liberated even in this life. And you see how devotees' lives are so blessed like that. The devotee's life is different from non-devotee's life. The way that we're in the material world is not like the way, materialistic people are in the material world. Because, we're living with Krishna, we're living with Krishna's devotees, we're serving Krishna, we're serving Krishna's devotees, we're absorbed in hearing about Krishna and Krishna's devotees. And that's what the spiritual world is. It's just Krishna and Krishna's devotees and cooperating together to serve Krishna and each other and hearing about the name, form, qualities, pastimes of Krishna. And so if that's what we're doing, and we're absorbed in those things, then it's as good as being in the spiritual world. Right? That's the point that Goswami is making in that verse. So, thank you. So in one sense, devotees, devotees don't have to go back to Godhead. We can be in Godhead, or I guess if God, sometimes we speak of that like back home, back to Godhead, as if Godhead is a place. So we can be in Godhead here in this world. And ultimately it all is Krishna's energy anyway. And somebody who has love for Krishna, right? Premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena sadai, what is it? Santa sadaiva vidyeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya guna sarupam govindam adipurusham tamavajam. There's someone who has love for Krishna, they see him everywhere. They see Shama Sundar everywhere. And that's the spiritual world. Krishna is everywhere. Everywhere you turn, there's Krishna and service for Krishna and Krishna's devotees. So, yeah, when we develop that love, then there's really no difference. This whole existence becomes transformed. It's like we wake up, right, from a bad dream. The Prabhupada and the Purport was talking about bad dreams. So this pastime saves us from bad dreams at night. But this whole material existence is like a big bad dream. And by hearing the pastimes of the Lord, by performing devotional service, we wake up. And then we understand, and then the love for Krishna awakens. That Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhikabunai Shravanadi Shuddhachitta Karaye Udaya. So the word Udaya literally means wakes up. It arises. You wake up and so Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. We all have eternally. We are perfect in love for Krishna. And by hearing Shravanadi Shuddhachitta, the consciousness becomes purified, and that love wakes up. It arises. So, and when our love wakes up, that's when the soul wakes up from this dream. And that's why, Lord Chaitanya is calling us to wake up. Jeev Jago, Gaur Chandra Bole, Kota Nidra Jawamaya, Pisha Chura Kole. How long are you going to stay sleeping in the lap of the witch called Maya? Just take this holy name. This is the medicine to cure this disease, which has put you into a coma here in this material world, forgetting who you are, totally not able to actually act in your eternal constitutional position. So take the holy name, Eneche Ashadi Maya, Nashivaralagi, Harinam Maha Mantra, Lao Tumi Magi. So take this holy name. This is the medicine. It's going to cure your sleeping situation, your sleeping condition. Wake up and live your real life as an eternal servant of Krishna in the spiritual world. And seeing your love will wake up, and you'll see Krishna's everywhere, even here. Okay. Oh, just did you have a question or comment? Okay, so we'll wrap it up then. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari.